Hi everybody, it's Gail from Gail's Bookish Things. I wanted to share with you today some of the results I have gotten from using this Caliber paper from CVS. I've heard a lot about this off and on YouTube, and with it being a fountain pen friendly paper. I wrote a few things here with currently inked pens, did a little scribble swatch that didn't show me a whole lot. There was a little bit of bleed through with the Southwest Sunset, but I did just this really fun, bold swatching that's just so easy to do and kind of feels therapeutic in a way. Dip the Q-tip in the ink and wipe it all over the place. So this was the KYZ Honey. As you can see, I use my dip pen to write with that. And so that isn't a real great determiner, I don't think, with to determine whether it's a good combination. But I just wanted to label it and just try a little writing without inking up a bunch of pens. You can still smell the vanilla scent on that, so that is kind of fun. I did the Conklin Dusty Rose, which you can see with the dip pen was really kind of a mess. A lot of feathering there, just funny little points here and there with it. But there is some nice shading aspect going on there. Private Reserve Sherwood Green. In the right light, you can see some sheening, a lot of red showing through. Again, not the best pen for writing. And I did have just this sense of slight feathering with it. But I think the color is super vibrant. It's a little bit brighter in person than it's showing to you, or at least through my phone. This is Robert Oster Melon Tea, same pen again, and then later I inked this up in my Kaweco Double Broad Olive. That writing experience was okay. Do love how it shows this different color aspect here with the dark and the lighter. Then Colorverse Green Goddess. I have inked in my Eco Tea in a broad nib, the Royal Jade Twisby, and you get really good red sheening there. Then I tried a sample that a lot of these are samples, but inks I have on hand from friends. This is the Diamine Shimmer series. This is Blue Pearl. Again, writing with the Wankai dip pen, but there is a very nice pearlescent quality that is showing on this paper. I don't know if it's showing for you. This is my trusty go-to ink, which is funny because it's a shimmer. Everything I try, I have liked it, so it's sort of my standard, I guess you could say. So I liked how it swatched. I mean, look at that. That shimmer is amazing. And it really shows the gray and the gold. This was the strangest one. This is the Noodler's General of the Armies. It is one of those, like, I think it's called bulletproof, but it's water resistant, forge resistant, and all that. And it's so strange to me how you get these little dots throughout. It felt okay to write with it, but that's just such a unusual thing. And you're even getting these vertical lines showing up. So that must be something to do with how the paper is made. Isn't that odd? Maybe I'm missing something totally obvious. Please tell me. I do want to point out real quick, there is like very little bleed through. This is just because this was so wet. And was there another? Yeah, just a little bit of bleed through with the Southwest Sunset. I was laying it on a little heavy there. So you have that with the scribble swatch. Other than that, all of these did pretty well. I mean, they did great. No bleed through, except the Noodlers. It was a pretty heavy swatch, but isn't that unusual? All those horizontal lines. And then here's the Jinhao X159 with Van Diemen's Harvest line of Golden Nugget Pumpkin. It looks really pretty on there. Get a little bit of kind of that double color there. Bennu Euphoria, a broad nib, and this is Diatramentus Alexander Hamilton, and a very nice gold sheen showing there, which I usually don't pick up on in my writing. This just comes out in the swatching, generally for me, maybe very subtly. And then the Yamabudo, I thought it was wild grapes, or wild yam. Then I heard at some point that someone said it's wild grapes, and then I just looked it up today, and it's like something else. I don't remember, but it's like something with a vine, so maybe a grapevine. Anyway, it is not yam, apparently. But the sheen, or the shimmer on that, not sure if it's shimmer or sheen, actually. But I don't usually get that either when I'm writing with it, so it's really pretty to see it in these big swatches. Ackerman Deepwater Blue in my Pilot Vanishing Point Broad. Kind of scribbled down what I was writing with. This is a very much enjoyed ink of mine, and you're getting a little copper sheen there, but I don't think I like it as much on this paper as I do on the others. So I was kind of impressed with the swatching. Wasn't real wild about how it felt to write with it though. But as far as showing off the ink quality, except for this one, it's amazing. It's just like what you would call cheapy paper, but really nice on that. But I wanted to give it the test, the true test that I have, and that is, do I like writing on it? So I thought I would just take some time and write a little bit with those inks, my currently inked pens. This is Noodler's General of the Army. It just seems to be a little bit too much bleed through. Again, mentioning the strange speckled aspect of the General of the Armies. I'll try to zoom in, and I don't know if you can see it, but if you just look at this word think, there's little dots under the K and on the upstroke of the T, and maybe that's just too close. It's just weird, and I'm attributing that to the bulletproof qualities maybe that the ink has. Then I tried my Platinum Preppy, which has a carbon ink in it that is like waterproof. It felt so dry. The carbon color just dries to a dull gray. By the way, this goes on deeper and dries lighter in color. This was not a wow experience at all. I just don't like this. That was like, I would never want to write with that pen on this paper, ever. And then I got my Kaweco with the Robert Oster Melon Tea. It was dry. It's a skinny line normally. I mean, this is a double broad. I got this skinny little sad, dry, draggy line, and all I can say is, yuck. I just, no, thank you. If that was my first introduction to fountain pens, I'd be like, what on earth is the hype about? Not good at all. The Jinhao X159, which is a medium nib, I have the Van Diemen's Harvest Golden Nugget Pumpkin ink in it. And this was a wetter flow, and it felt pretty smooth, slightly more favorable than the Noodler's one. That felt okay writing with it. It just dried so strangely on the paper. This color looks nice. Some lay down of the ink with some wetness. I thought maybe this would be good for letter writing if you had maybe some larger size sheets of paper, and I had this ink. I think it might be nice for writing letters. But journaling with it all the time, it would not be something I would go to. And then my TWSBI Eco Tea Broad Nib, the Royal Jade, has Colorverse Green Goddess in it right now. This feels pretty smooth, but it just feels absorbent. You might say, well, isn't it the same as dry? Yes and no, because it feels like it goes on okay, but it's just like a sponge. So there's not as much gliding of the pen on the paper. Less pleasant than the orange a pumpkin nugget, but it's tolerable. I didn't like it. And then my go-to, my beloved TWSBI Eco Broad Nib in Cement Gray with J. Urbain Grisouage, feels and sounds dry and scratchy. And normally I love this. There is some shimmer, so that's a good quality of the paper, but minimal compared to what I normally get on other papers. The line is much narrower. I usually get a thicker line, which I prefer because I think it helps my handwriting to look nicer. And Cosmo Air Light Regalia, even the B7, I have a good experience with this combination. And here it's dull. There's nothing about that that's attractive or fun. Then my Benu Euphoria Broad Nib with Diatramentus Alexander Hamilton ink is the best so far. It was pretty gushy, not as much as on those favorite papers I mentioned on the other sheet there. Normally I love this combination, and the experience here, it was okay. It was not bad, but it just felt too absorbent, and the ink color is just less exciting. It just goes on kind of matte and dull. So it's like, oh yeah, that's a nice grapey purple, but it just doesn't have the wow experience that I get with Cosmo Air Light, Tomoe River, the B7 that I'm playing around with, and the Regalia. This does not scratch an itch for me. If I was picking up journaling with this combination, I wouldn't like it with fountain pens. I think it might be really good with a nice gel pen. Last two was the Pilot Eco T Broad Saffron TWSBI. I said Pilot, I'm sorry. TWSBI Eco T, my saffron one. That nib is maybe a little drier than some of my TWSBIs, but it's not too bad. I have Yamabudo in it, similar to the previous, slightly drier, and just not fun. It's like, okay, you can write with it. There is nothing that would make me think, oh wow, this is great. What paper is this? If someone gave that to me, I would not be lured into the fountain pen world. And then the Pilot Vanishing Point Broad, not even remotely a pleasant writing experience. So that is my opinion. You may have a different one. I get it. We all have different opinions. And if you've used this with fountain pens, I would love to know what combination you found favorable. For my style of writing, for the way I like it to feel on paper, I do not like it. I am not a fan for fountain pens in this paper, unless you just want to play with swatches. Then it's super fun, and it's nice and crinkly, and you really get a nice display of the ink's attributes. And thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye.